Welcome to the first episode of the 16th series, everyone. This series, we are diving into some really great wuxia territory with the Hearts of Wulin RPG by Lowell Francis from the Gauntlet and Agatha Cheng from Asians Represent. But before we get there, I'd really love to introduce our guest host for this series. In lieu of Amelia, still on break, currently enjoying Disney World as of the time of this recording, we have invited Adira Slattery to join us. And as is the tradition here on Character Creation Cast, we like to get to know our guests. In this case, if anyone is not familiar with them or their work, Adira, thank you for joining us for the series.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you here. This is, it was such a fun recording with you.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's let our listeners get to know you a bit more. Could you tell us a bit more about yourself and what sort of projects you have going on right now?
Yeah, so I'm Adira Slattery. I was on season 2 of A Woman with Hollow Eyes here on the One Shot Network, which you can watch the recordings of that in the Twitch VODs and also on YouTube. I also make a lot of little games myself, currently mostly little games. I've been releasing them all on my itch page, adira.itch.io. Otherwise, you can just sort of find me by Googling my name. There's just me, Adira Slattery. Follow me on Twitter, @Adira Slattery. Look at my fun little LARPs on itch.
There you go. So, what would you say is your favorite character creation system that you've ever created a character for or just looked into?
So, I think my favorite character creation system is actually the Life Path system from Nobilis 3rd edition.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So part of it involves like drawing these circles on a page and like picking flowers and answering all these different questions. Mm-hmm. And I just really, really like it. It creates a very interesting and like holistic look at the character and at their backstory and things like that. And it's also kind of funny that you sort of then throw it out for a little bit while you actually like fill in stats and things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I remember we did the Life Path system for Traveler 2.0, I believe it was. And I really enjoyed that, even though I got the short end of the stick every single moment. Yeah. Every roll.
Yeah.
But that's kind of half the fun, it seems.
Well, Life Path and Traveler and Life Path and Nobilis are actually very different.
I can imagine.
Yeah, Life Path and Traveler is like dice rolling and random events and like all this sort of history stuff, whereas Life Path and Nobilis is like you're picking these like conceptual flowers to represent different aspects of the character, and it's causing you to answer questions about like their heart and their shadow, and then like determining all these different like things about your character's like philosophy and outlook.
Well, that makes me want to actually look into doing more Life Path systems on our normal series. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we do have a couple more cold opens left this series, so I think we'll save the other questions for those, so that this one doesn't go very, very long, like it very well could, because I have a feeling I could talk to you for a while. But we're very, very happy to have you along for the series.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. And if you like what we're doing here at Character Creation Cast, please consider giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any of the other services that allow reviews. These help tremendously and allow others to find the podcast easier. Simply head to itunes.charactercreationcast.com to get to our Apple Podcasts page. Leaving a rating is fine and it helps, but if you read a review, Ryan and Amelia, the regular hosts, will read it out during their cold opens at some point. For now, just sit back, relaxed, and I'm excited to get to the show.
Yes, enjoy. Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan, and this episode my guest co-host, Adira, and I welcome Agatha Cheng and Lowell Francis. Did I get those names right?
You absolutely did.
Wonderful. Creators of the game we're going to be covering today, Hearts of Wulin, a Powered by the Apocalypse game for telling melodramatic stories of the wuxia.
Welcome to Character Creation Cast. We're really excited you could join us.
Awesome.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks for having us on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, let's start by introducing you for our audience. Agatha, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and any projects you're currently involved in?
Well, as of the One Shot Network, I'm actually a co-host to Asians Represent, which is another podcast where we celebrate diversity from an Asian perspective. So my co-host and I, Daniel Kwan, we interview guests who are Asian from the analog gaming community, and we also right now have an actual play going on where we've created a new setting, a pan-Asian city in masks, and we are playing through it. It's very dramatic. People are going through some emotional times.
Nice.
That's awesome. And Lowell, how about yourself?
I'm actually the co-host of the Gauntlet podcast on the Gauntlet sort of family of podcasts, and I'm sort of the role-playing hangouts coordinator for the Gauntlet community. And I'm also a blog at Age of Ravens, which we won an Emmy for that back in 2017. And right now that's over on the Gauntlet blog. We've moved over there for a weekly post there.
Oh, cool. Very nice. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into this. We will start by discussing what this game is all about.
What's in a game?
All right, since this is a new game, can you give us a quick pitch for the game, like the genre, the settings, and anything else pertinent to a wonderfully rehearsed pitch?
So the touchstone that we'll give people is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but we are all about the feels. This is a game of wuxia melodrama and melodrama first, romance and heartbreak and pain. And then when that gets to be too much, you get to punch each other in the face and do the fights, and you get to be awesome there, where maybe you can't get through the heartbreak, but you can beat other people up. And so that's sort of the balance of the game.
That's awesome. Punch your feels away.
Nice.
Yes.
So, what sort of things do we use to play this game? Like, are we going to be rolling dice? Do we need books, cards? What do we got?
Yes, because this is powered by the apocalypse, everyone will be using 2d6, so that's 2d6 dice, and you'll need the core rulebook. If you're playing online, you'll need the same thing in a character keeper. But anyway, that's getting into the specifics of online play. Yeah, but generally that's pretty much all you need. 2d6, the rules, and then character sheets and pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very cool. And then we touched on it a little bit with the genre talk, but what do characters specifically do in this game?
So one of the things is as many games do the building of relationships and bonds at the start, we have these entanglements that tie each characters together and tie them to NPCs. And they're some of them are about romance and some of them about their other obligations to people. And so those are sort of the engine to drive it. So in the game, you're trying to, get your lover to love you. You're trying to, break up somebody else. We usually have kind of a starter situation, and the starter situations often look like wuxia movies where, there's a tournament, or, people are coming together for a festival, or, there's this missing scroll. But very quickly it devolves into, I can't believe you did that to me. And, how is this happening? And, very much you are exploring your characters' lives and identities and, how they deal with obligation and the matters of the heart.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm going to add to another thing that's pretty unique about this game is that, it's not set in historical China because it's based on a fictional genre. So we've taken great pains to make sure that it's not it's not historically specific because that will be too much of a barrier for most people. However, there's a lot of this game that actually, I think when Lowell was writing a lot of the rules, it was unintentionally he incorporated a lot of like Confucius values, which are also kind of like Chinese values, into the game, and that's a really fun way. Even in like the Entanglements, where, for example, one of them is that I'm in love with so and so, but my teacher it despises them, and in this case, this is. My teacher is just as important to me as this person I'm in love with, which is from a more collectivist society, or at least in the historical times. It's maybe not as so, not so much now, but yeah, they were placed on almost equal importance, and in some cases, one more than the other. And the one that's more important is your relationship with your teacher and your respect and your obedience to them. So because this is already a choice that you can, one of the options that you can choose from in the game, that means that as a player, when I choose that, I accept that these are things that are very important to my character, and you're in a way experiencing an aspect of this culture that is very unique to this game, I think, and very fun.
Awesome. So there are a lot of different Powered by the Apocalypse games out in the world. What makes this game unique compared to the other ones?
Yeah, so I think basically what I said before about the cultural aspect of it, in a way where it's not pedantic. So this game is not like, let me teach you what Chinese people used to think. It's just, this is a fun game where you get to have feels, where you get to punch and or kick and or hit people over the head with a fan, but you're also just experience a very tiny slice of what it might have been like to have these values in these times.
So normally we talk about the history of the system, but since this is a brand new system, I wanted to ask a few questions about the development process. So first of all, why Hearts of Wulin? Why did we go ahead and make this game?
So I have for a number of years adored these Chinese wuxia TV series. That it wasn't until much later that I realized that many of them were based on novels, and that there was a whole cultural milieu that these came out of, with some authors that are huge, and that these shows have been made and remade and all of that. I found them years ago. Netflix had some of these on, and I got them and I watched them and I fell in love. And I'd already, liked Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but these shows had long arcs and people changing and complicated things and tons of characters. And I really loved that. And so I tried to do that with some other systems, including Hacking Storyteller and an earlier version with PBTA that were terrible. They were terrible. They were super complicated and super filled with lots of detail and trad approaches, and okay, we've got to get our maneuvers and we got to get these three elements together and that kind of thing. And I kind of gave up on that at a certain point. I'd had a conversation with Renee Knipe, and she had talked about the importance of romance in these stories. And then I played Monster Hearts, and I was like, okay, it can be done. The game can work that way. And it came from me loving those stories and wanting to get them out on the table, and realizing that we had some tools out there between Monster Hearts and Masks and some other games. And it started me pulling those ideas together to make this game.
Very cool.
So, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is sort of like a massive, almost like exaggeration and parody at some points of some of the different wuxia tropes. Are you guys trying to really lean into that sort of knowledge of the genre sort of required for playing this game? Or is your hope that this game can just be anyone can jump in and do all sorts of cool wuxia stuff?
I think that's a great question, and I have a clarifying question to ask. Oh, by the way, the term is pronounced wuxia. So
Wuxia.
anytime
Thank you.
X in pinyin, like Chinese pinyin, is always pronounced like sh in English.
Awesome.
Similar, C, if it's there's a letter just C, then it's pronounced like TS in English.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. I can always jump in again later.
Thank you. Please correct me.
Yeah. So, when you say that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is like a parody of the wuxia genre, what did you mean by that?
So, I mean, like, everything that I've heard in talking with different people about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is that, like, to a lot of people who are incredibly familiar with the genre and with a lot of different things, that some of the like things that it takes and interests and like things that it explores are just these like massive huge, like almost like exaggerations of some of the stories that other things in the genre tell. And that like I've talked to people about like, oh, I really like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And they're like, oh, that's really funny because like it's the part of the reason why it might be really popular in like America is because it is this like massive sort of like exaggeration that like I, in my cultural consciousness, wouldn't be able to pick up a lot of the like subtleties and like real interplay in the genre for people who like are actually like familiar with it.
That's a great. Oh, Lowell, did you have?
I've heard that reading before, and I don't know if I entirely agree with it. I think that there's an element more of homage that's going on. Certainly, I think Ang Lee is drawing from that because those traditions are so established, and he's working with that. Now, one of the things is that and Agatha maybe can speak more to this, is that this particular genre comes out of their older novels, but it came from a set of authors in the 1950s in Hong Kong that wrote these novels and really established these tropes. Like Tolkien made orcs and elves and dwarves, things that then other people, have used and reused and kind of set the template. These novels set the template for what the stories were about, what people could do in these stories, what was important in them. And I think that Ang Lee is taking those things and I don't know if parody, I think really reusing them in a new way, remixing and saying, this is what we've done before. Let me show you how we do it in a fine arts form.
All right.
But that's just my reading of it.
I will come in here. I don't have an opinion on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because the last time I saw it, I was, I believe, in grade 5 and 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And I saw it with my dad. But I will tell you my dad's opinion on it. And my dad is a cinephile. He used to watch a lot of film, and a little less so now. But his opinion on it, as someone who's definitely a first immigrant from Taiwan, is that what he didn't like about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was it's not that it's a parody of the wuxia genre and tropes, but it's that he said this film is made for North America. This or not North America. This film is made for the West. I think specifically he said this film is made for white people, but let's contextualize.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What he meant is that because this part is true according to him. Again, I'm just quoting my dad. Don't quote me. He was saying that there was a lot of times where some things that would be implicit in other Chinese media made for Chinese people that are like cultural values or like expectations where how a person would respond to this. Instead, they are stated explicitly in the film, and that is the part I think that actually rubs him the wrong way, and I think it's very interesting. I'm very curious about who these people were that you were chatting with, who Adira, that were saying that they're kind of magnifying these wuxia tropes when in fact they might be magnifying cultural expectations, which is just really fascinating. Awesome. But I will go back to answer the question, which is about whether this game is supposed to be more for wuxia fans, so people who are like, I already love this and I want to replicate this kind of story in this game, or can they be played by anyone. And I think I do think that this game would first of all be more appealing maybe to people who already love the genre. And I do think in a way, like if you already have a love for it, then this is our love letter to our fellow fans. Just like let's see, just like Monster of the Week is sort of like a love letter to all the people who watch Supernatural. And on the other hand, we are going to be, and this is partly why. So Lowell is the genius behind all of the mechanics, basically. And I'm going to be coming on to write all of the cultural context and the genre context as well for people. So we are going to do our best to make sure that it is the most approachable to anyone possible. And a part of how to emulate the genre and how to emulate the tone as well as the cultural context is written into the rules already, outside of like whatever little blurbs that I'm going to write about, what is Chinese culture and so on and so forth. So I think you will definitely love this if you love the wuxia genre, but I think anyone can play it as well if they choose to, because we are going to provide the tools for them.
Awesome. That's one of the things I absolutely love about Powered by the Apocalypse games is it's very easy for people that don't know the particular genre to approach a Powered by the Apocalypse game, especially if they played other PBTA games, and jump in and through the character creation, through the basic moves and the character moves and things like that, and just through play, it kind of comes naturally that you're emulating these specific genres, and you don't need any previous conceptions of what the genre's like because you're learning it a bit through play, especially if you're just paying attention to how things are going.
And I would love it if we can provide a toolkit for people to go back and look at these series and movies and see these things, and maybe even get people to watch these series. And, I would love that and get more attention, and then maybe more of these will get, more good ones will get translated, for the West. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, speaking of playtesting, how has playtesting been going with this game?
We've done a very loose process with that. Yeah. I had a rough version that I ran on the Gauntlet as a game where I just wanted to see if it worked, and then tweaked. And when we got towards the end of last year, I think October, November, I had run it some more, and people started asking for a playtest pack, and so that's when we put something together that anybody could run from, and people have been running it as a game, like not as a playtest, but as a game. And then we've been getting feedback from players on the forum threads for that. And Agatha's run it quite a bit. Yeah, I think Agatha was the first one besides me to run it. So
yeah, I basically insinuated myself into this whole game process until I was made a co-author. That's how you do it. Pro tips, friends. It was we definitely didn't have like a form for people to fill out to testing specific things. I feel like as someone who did not design the rules, I do think that it was a pretty complete in a lot of ways. So we didn't have to do a lot of stress testing. There were some rules that we were like, okay, no one ever uses this.
Never uses this. Had to kill my darlings, which is always hard. And I did reach out to some of the people who had run with specific questions about things that I saw as friction points to see if they had that. And I had some differences. Like there was a thing I started to cut that I got feedback that were like, no, we're using it. It was something that I hadn't really leaned into and that other players, other GMs were using in a really strong way. So that's been fun.
Oh, very cool.
Which move was that?
That was the impress move. Because I never have used it, and Jason and some other people have been using it for really strong scenes, and they were like, "Nope, leave it in there." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, I like it too. I like telling people to do it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. So, I guess let's move on and talk a little bit more about some of like the like terms and concepts that will need to be that are really like specific to Hearts of Wulin. So one of the first things I think we should talk about is one of the things I'm personally most excited about, which are the elements and the conditions.
Yes. So the elements are basically the stats that you would roll with for this game. And the way that these work is that it's really basically taken from Fraser Simon's The Veil, right? The mechanics. Well, actually, do you want to talk about it?
Well, you get to talk about the other stuff. So
Sure.
I'll say it's, I wanted a approach to rolling with stats that was like the Veil, where Veil uses emotional states, or like Fate Accelerated, how they use approaches, where you get a choice about what you want to do. I took the 5 elements, which comes from Agatha
Cheng. This is why I'm here.
Yes, the elemental system, very loosely. But I wanted people to be flexible about that so that they could use that choice to shape their actions. There are a couple of exceptions on that, like you have a fighting style, and a style is associated with a particular element, so you always roll with that value. You always roll. If you have a fire-based style, you're always rolling with fire. And then conversely, for your inner conflict, for your can you deal with emotional turmoil, you can roll with anything but your style element. So they kind of flip on their head. And then eventually I realized that I had harm tracks and all kinds of stuff early on, and those are gone. And essentially, if you take harm, you mark a stat, and you can't roll with that stat anymore until you get that fixed. So over time, your options become smaller and smaller. And if, for example, your fighting style, if you mark that, then you can't fight. You've got to figure out another way to handle it.
Oh, wow.
There is a wounded condition, which gives you -2 ongoing that you can always fall back to, but it is a terrible choice. I love it when players make that choice because, but it's really, it creates that there's a connection to that is when you roll for something, as you in Powered by the Apocalypse, a fail is a 6 or less total, and the GM makes a hard move in the Powered by the Apocalypse games. One of the classic hard moves in this game is to say, okay, you need to mark your element. You need to mark that one. Well, you always mark the one that you rolled with. So if you're always rolling with your best stat, eventually I'm going to make you mark that. Yeah. And so there's a kind of a risk reward push your luck thing there that I love.
Oh, that's really interesting. I don't think I've seen that in PBT yet, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, Fraser's of having the spiked state in the Veil was what really inspired me to play with those stats like that.
Very cool.
Awesome. So you mentioned briefly about styles. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. I mean, style is a very kind of character creation, narrative flavor side of it, where you pick you pick your fighting style, and there's a list of fighting style names that you can choose from, and then you can also choose your weapon. So this is all associated with that. Again, there's a style element, so an element associated with your fighting style, and it kind of, based on the description of the element that you choose, it kind of informs the way that visually you can describe how you fight as well. But other than that, yeah, it's not a mechanic.
Very cool.
Cool.
And then you've got, 6 playbooks right now? And can you tell us a little bit about those 6 and what separates them from each other?
Well, I'll say then I'll let Agatha describe the 6. But each of our playbooks is a particular archetype, but then we have 3 roles. Like you choose a particular version of that, because I didn't want to do 18 playbooks.
Yeah.
So we have each one has a different role that has sort of a unique move, and then there's a pool of moves that they choose from in there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I can go into the playbooks. I like the way that you describe them, Lowell, but I'll take them on my spin. So the 6 overarching playbooks are the Aware, the Bravo, the Loyal, the Outsider, Student, and the unorthodox. And so why don't we split them in half? I'll describe the first thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So the aware is a very knowledge-based sort of a playbook. And again, knowledge-based is not really in terms of like, oh, okay, so this is like a wizard, right? No, this is more like in terms of like narrative positioning. Your character is always kind of coming from that perspective. And a lot of times also a wiser type of character can be created with this. So the backgrounds are, there's a master who's, again, like that kind of peaceful person, and they have a move associated with that background where they try to pacify aggressive situations. And then there's a scholar, which is, as the name implies, it's very knowledge-based, like, oh, okay, I have... A lot of times you get more advantages when you say, I think I have knowledge of a historical situation that matches up with this, or so on. And there's also the traveling sifu, which is when you can also like observe people based on the kind of wisdom and knowledge that you have from being maybe older and more experienced. And then the next one, the Bravo, is almost like an opposite of that kind of archetype. The Bravo is definitely I don't want to say it's the fun one, but it's the one. It's the one character that's very exuberant and gets to kind of like throw rules to the wind because they can get away with it. So their backgrounds are the favorite eldest again. So you're the eldest and you get the advantages of being an eldest. And again, just the historical part of this kind of story. Or there's the Gallivant background where you travel from place to place and you're kind of just like, oh yeah, like, I leave behind a trail of broken hearts, but that's what I do because this is my life. And then there's all the thief. So again, this is this kind of fun rules are for losers kind of a playbook. And then the next one is the loyal, which is, I think, a lot of times what people associate with maybe like the wuxia genre, or when they speak of like a warrior archetype. So loyal is a lot about it's about their loyalties to whatever they have placed it. So one of the backgrounds is the devoted child. Their loyalty definitely rests very firmly within their family, perhaps in their parental figure, but definitely this is the center of their lives and their importance. And then another background is the official, which Lowell has said is one of his favorites. Isn't that what you said before?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and this one is really fun because you get to play like a magistrate, judge, or civil servant, and then you have ties associated with that, but also obligations associated with that. So and it's like you get to play like a very righteous person, or not, I guess, but you definitely these are kind of like, this is the most important thing to you outside of like being a martial master and so on. And then there's also the swordsman, which is that archetypal trope, which is you serve your family and clan, and you are extra tough because you're a warrior, and there are mechanical aspects associated with that.
And then the outsider is actually, in some ways, kind of the opposite of the loyal. And the loyal is deeply within the Wulin world. The outsider is outside of that. So we have the character who's the rebel, who's fighting against something, maybe the factions themselves in the Wulin world, or the emperor. We have the trickster. They can always con people. They always have the positioning to pull one over on other people. And then there's the wanderer, just the wandering person who's going from place to place and has traveled the land, that doesn't have a settled home. And then the fifth one is the student. This is the character that's about kind of learning and knowledge and seeking approval in some way. So we have a hopeful apprentice who can hold their own against big, higher scale characters for just a little bit longer than anybody else. The wandering monk, which has, the sort of temple associations.
Yeah, monk.
And yes. And then the younger sibling, who is a character who has given themselves to serve their family and hopefully rise up, and they're probably not treated very well. And so that's them. The last playbook is the one we added a little bit deeper in the process, is the Unorthodox. And this is sort of the wild card set, the wild card playbook. And in fact, it's the one that potentially has a little more gonzo, or it can change what's going on in the setting. So GMs may want to look at it to see whether they want to use it or not. There's the accidental to character who doesn't know martial arts, but somehow they do know martial arts and they can kind of stumble through fights. We have the hidden. This is the character who's deliberately trying to hide that they know they're, for whatever reasons they're being hunted, or they've hurt someone or whatnot. And then the prodigy is the character who has great power that they can't control. So it's a little bit of my Avatar Last Airbender kind of throw it in that one. And that is hugely popular. So
wait, is
I've
the
been
Prodigy
surprised.
very popular? I've never seen someone play that before.
Oh, I've had the Prodigy in at least 3 or 4 times.
Oh.
Very cool.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of the entanglements that these characters are going to be getting into.
Oof. So we have the way that entanglements work in this game is they basically serve as backstory prompts between PCs, but also possibly to NPCs. But these also have a mechanical weight within this game. So how it works is every PC, you would choose one romantic and one general entanglement for your character. And these entanglements are statements. So I can just read from one of these example ones. For example, I love so-and-so, but so-and-so, a leader of my faction, has forbidden it. So there's always 2 blank spaces in there where you fill in the names of either 2. You can either do 2 PCs, or they could be 1 PC and 1 NPC. But they always need to have, generally speaking, they always need to have a PC in there, and this will tie you into each other. And it's also a great way to create a lot of complicated backstory, especially because every single PC needs to choose 2 for themselves. Then they don't necessarily need to reflect whatever other people have chosen for them. So one person can say, I'm in love, for example, I can say my character is in love with Lowell's character, and Lowell can say my character is in love with with Adira's character, and it just goes on into this complicated web. And people never repeat entanglements because there are so many to choose from. That's not a problem. So it's a great way to create backstory, but it also has narrative consequences in game because for one thing, that's a really good way for you to get experience. We always choose one entanglement to highlight per session, and the highlighted one will give you 4 experience. 3 experience at the end of the session, and then the other one that wasn't highlighted. So the one that's highlighted, if that theme is touched on, or any sort of that story thread is touched on during play, then you get the 3 experience points associated with it. And then the other one that wasn't highlighted, if you kind of touched on that as well, you get another experience point from it. So this is a great way for people to be focusing on the narrative backstories that they've chosen, because everyone wants to level up. You're all about that. Or conversely, if you keep playing to these stories, then you also get in it. You get experience out of it. And another aspect of these entanglements is that they're basically the way that that inner conflict, which is one of the moves in this game, gets triggered. And Lowell, do you want to talk about inner conflict?
So inner conflict is when you come face to face with a situation involving your entanglement, like you run into the person who you love and they start telling you about how they're in love with this other person. That's the point at which you roll inner conflict. And inner conflict, either you hold yourself steady, or the sort of 7 to 9 is you mark an element, or you have to flee the situation. And then the fail state is things get terrible, like misunderstandings and, betrayals and all of that come in. And it is it's the engine for the game, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Once you get that rolling, it goes from there.
Yeah.
So characters have entanglements, but they also have bonds. How do those interplay with each other?
So bonds are the currency for assisting other players. So you have these connections or bonds. They're mechanically tracked. Like if I would have a bond with Agatha's character, I'd have it a 1 or 2 or even up to 3. And you can burn those bonds to give a bonus to a roll after you roll it. So it's very much our currency. And those come out of entanglements now, where at the start you get 2 bonds and you draw 1 bond from each of your entanglements.
Okay.
Very cool.
Cool. Yeah. And so the last thing we want to talk about is scale.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want to? I want to give your take on that.
All right. Okay. So the way that fights work, duels specifically work in this game. The duel is the name of the move you would roll if you wanted to fight. Is that it's how the result of the fight goes is based on the scale of the PC's opponent. And the way that the scale works is that it is always tied back to the perspective of the PC. So there's not an objective scale where people would fall on different spectrums. It's more like, okay, this PC is fighting against this dude who looks pretty cool, but is probably not the big bad. Okay, so their scale, as the GM is going to say, is on the same level as the PC. And then there are only 2 other scales aside from being equal to each other. One is greater than the PC, and one is lesser than the PC. And then the way you roll, Lowell, did you want to take over from there?
Yeah, basically, if you're fighting someone who's on a lower scale than you, which can include like groups of troops, you're going to win. Like, period. That's what's going to happen. With their, on a fail, you get to choose if you lose and you can mark XP, but generally you're going to win. If you fight somebody above your scale, you lose. That's period. That's how it works. And your role determines whether you get to narrate how you lose or not. Oh. And so you want to roll well there so that you can have a little bit of control over what happens to you. And then if you're on the same scale with person, then it's more questionable. Then there are different sets of results and some choices and things like that, and things can happen a little bit differently. But normally all fights are 1 roll. That's it. We do a roll. That's our fight. We saw how it happened. We describe to get into the setup of it. We talk about what you're doing, and then you roll and you tell me how cool you were, or how tragic you were, as the case may be. Yeah. And then there's mechanics in the game for how you change scale or how you even scale over time there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that scale system that you just described.
Really cool.
That's great. It reminds me a lot of ranks and Amber Diceless. It's so cool. Yeah.
It's a little bit like that and Mouse Guard.
Yep.
It kind of bigger things, smaller things.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Very cool. I'm really excited. Is there anything else that we want to cover before we head into character creation?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. Well, hey, let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
Sweet. So are there any playbooks from our brief pitches that y'all are more interested in?
I went to the Entanglements tab and started reading some of those to get an idea of, because it looks like each playbook has their own set of entanglement questions, right?
Yeah, I have curated a set because players were like, these lists are too long. So I curated a set of 3 romantic and 3 general for each of the playbooks to make it easier for people. But you can always go and look at the big list if none of those appeal.
I see the big.
Scroll to the right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can see why that would be a little intimidating to select from the extremely large list there for both of those.
Yeah. When I'm at a convention, I actually have these all on cards, and I'll deal out a set of cards.
Oh, interesting.
To the players to choose from, which has worked pretty well.
Oh, that sounds great.
You are so much more prepared than I was. I remember you telling me that that's what you did. And then what I did was I took a piece of paper that I had already printed something else on. And then I printed on the backside of it some of the entanglements and not all of them, because I was like, I don't have any more paper. So everyone shared this one piece. It was the worst plan.
Oh, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think of defining your character based on these entanglements as opposed to the playbooks, because the playbooks are definitely more, specific.
Oh, so many good choices, too.
So, I think, one of the things that comes to mind for me when I think about the genre is the movie Curse of the Golden Flower.
Song emo. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I really like the queen. I think she's a very interesting character. And so I was trying to think about like a playbook where I could sort of do some of those sorts of things.
Well, one of the interesting things is because we've got these playbooks very generalized, is you can take something and reshape it. Like, for example, you could take the outsider and the trickster, because trickster always can manipulate people, can always change, and interact. And there's a thing with that character in there is she always, even when she's in a bad position, can talk people into things.
Yeah.
So that's a way to go about that. And I can see some other ways, but that's what occurs to me right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like some obvious things, like possibly an idea like playing off of the official.
Because then you get some contacts, you have a network of people.
Yeah, you could even possibly do the master and aware. Interesting.
I'm trying to figure out whether I want to fully embrace my brand or push against it.
Yeah.
Amelia's got me kind of trying to push against my super honorable, super like peaceful sort of brand. And maybe try something a little bit more devious.
Well,
Yes.
if you're playing against type, then I think I'll probably go against type a little bit. I play a lot of characters that are very stabby.
Fair enough.
So what you're saying is you're going to use a staff for this game.
Yeah.
Copy that.
Yeah, if I was thinking on type, I would probably be looking more at like one of like the like flexible weapons, or like throwing knives and throwing weapons and things like that in general. But playing against type. Huh.
I'm kind of leaning towards the unorthodox prodigy.
Cool.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of like a character that has these, abilities, these extra talents that they don't know how to fully control, but they think they are, the bee's knees. They're like, yeah, I can do all this cool stuff because I am the greatest thing that this world has ever seen.
I think I'm going to go master.
Nice.
Okay. All
right, what about you two?
Okay, I haven't really thought about playbook yet, but I just figured out what my weapons are going to be. I'm not going to say them right now because I'm so excited. So I'll hold that back. Lowell, what are you thinking of?
I'm going to be the loyal official.
Nice.
Finally, you get to be.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
And I fight with a brush.
Nice.
Nice.
A big iron brush, but a brush nonetheless.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Okay, so we have an aware, a loyal, and an unorthodox. Okay, so bumbling, serious, pacifist.
So should we be claiming a color on the spreadsheets?
I'm taking the yellow one.
Okay.
Because yellow is the weakest
I will
color.
take the teal-ish one on the left because that's my favorite color. So on the character sheet, for the role, is that your playbook and your like I would be the
playbook and role.
Prodigy?
Yeah.
I think I'll take the red one.
There you go.
It's red, right?
That is a reddish color. Yes.
Cool. I'm colorblind, so.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Did you want us to change the color? Because we can do that.
No, it's fine.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I think I'm going to choose the Wandering Monk.
Nice.
Interesting.
But I don't want to revel in naivete. Don't tell me what to do, player agenda. I'm just kidding.
You're not the boss of me.
Oh, interesting. I see the player agenda down there.
Yeah, so the top 4 are always the same across the board.
Oh, okay.
So it's embrace sincerity. Oh, wait. Did we speak obliquely about the heart, play with everyone's entanglements, and act in the service of something greater? These are things that we all should do. And then you have a special one just for you.
Conceal your truth for me.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, how would that change somebody who thinks they're all that?
Oh, you don't have to. They're just inspirations. And some of them are more...
I think, though, in your context, conceal your truth is the fact that you're not as good as you think you are.
Oh, snap.
Nice.
That might be true, yeah. I like that.
That cuts. Oh,
Like
I get to be purple.
All this cool extra stuff is just kind of accidental. And I meant to do that.
Okay, so it looks like after we've got our playbook set, we should do look next.
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, and make sure when you pick your background that you copy and paste that onto the first section of the moves, because there is a mechanical aspect associated with it. Usually there's a move, so you copy paste that as well.
All right. So for looks, it looks like we've got a lot of different appearance and dress options here.
Yes.
Cool.
Pick as many or as little as you want.
I will say that both Agatha and I have probably spent more hours working through Pinterest boards for pictures for these characters that we've run than to maybe we have actually running the game.
Oh my gosh.
Would that seem like a fair statement?
That is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
It's more important to look good.
Yes.
I don't want to make him smarmy.
These are a great, like, breadth and depth of these. I like these.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting, like, combinations that you could probably make with these sorts of appearance descriptors.
Yeah.
A gentle face, glowing skin, hopeful eyes.
Pallid skin, unflinching gaze, unkempt hair, dark and stealthy dress.
Interesting. Unassuming. That's got to be one of mine.
So should we order these in like a sentence? Should it just be like a list?
I've always just put it in a list. Some people will write out a full description, but I've always just kind of picked out aspects that I like.
All right, friends. What do you think about the term stern grin? What does that evoke in your mind?
Like okay, go ahead.
I think stern grin is like a grin that doesn't necessarily like extend much past the sort of the center of the face. There's a set jaw as part of it. Just like,
maybe we're not sure how sincere you are about the grin.
Interesting.
I'm thinking,
I think it's got like a connotation of judgment to it.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Like,
I'm not picking that. That doesn't work with my character concept.
it's almost like you're in trouble and I know you're in trouble and I'm going to enjoy you being in trouble.
I just picked stern grin now because of this conversation, so.
Stern grin is its own character, I think.
All right.
Move.
Dress. Bare armed. Yes, bare armed for sure. Because he's got to show off his quote unquote muscles, even though he's petite and unassuming.
You can be petite and unassuming and still have sweet muscles.
I don't think he has sweet muscles.
Ah.
Yeah. I think he's like this. He thinks he's all that because of his like special abilities that he can't control. But he's just this little pipsqueak that just tries to like, show off more than what he really is.
Man, glowing skin. That's all I want in life.
Yeah.
So we should also pick our name when we're picking our look, it looks like.
And you can I have a factions and names tab with lots of examples on there if you need help.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
All right. Factions and names.
Other names.
Factions for Hearts of Wulin. Interesting. Oh, style names too. Wow. Ageless Sin. Well, that's an interesting name.
Yeah.
Anti-Heartless. Wow. These names are amazing.
I love making up names for this game.
I actually think my favorite is Bao.
Just Bao?
Yeah, because it always makes me think of Baozi, which is the term for buns.
Yeah, the dumpling buns, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't.
In the very first game, or no, the big 13 session game we did last year, one of the sort of the bumbling villains that became more serious throughout was Magistrate Bao.
Bao.
And he was bumbling at the start, and he was a cute.
So cute. Oh yeah, did we pick the gender pronouns for our characters yet?
Oh, that's a good idea.
I was thinking male, he, him for mine.
Cool.
Yeah, and I will say one of the things we would have done is we have all the characters set up, that we would talk about the setting and the safety tools and considerations and things like that. Just people know that we have all of that process.
What safety tools do you generally use?
I tend to fall back on the X card because it's the simplest thing, and I run a lot online, and so that's what I do. It's not the best tool, but it is a good one for that kind of situation.
I've been playing recently with the red, yellow, green.
Oh yeah,
safety tool.
Are you liking that?
It's nice because it's got the active sort of consent built into it, where if you really like what's going on, and if it's a little heavy still, you can hold up a green and say, and I like this, let's keep going. Nice. And then if things are kind of approaching your discomfort territory, but you're still fine with it, you can hold up yellow saying, hey, just be careful. There might be some boundaries that we're pushing against here, but we can keep going. And whether or not your group wants to discuss things at that point, that's fine. And then you hold up a red object, and that means stop. We hit something that I'm not good with at all.
Interesting.
That's pretty similar to OK Check-In, which is a safety mechanic that I use in LARPs constantly.
Yep.
And I also will just sort of use with my spouse in the world.
LARPs are fantastic for, I think, online safety tools. Because if you have only a webcam to see people as you're chatting with, and instead of like a physical thing that you can press on the table, as long as people are able to see everybody in the chat, you just have to do the sign or hold up the object or whatever.
It's one of the things to be really happy with in the Gauntlet is we require, if you're going to run for us, you have to use a safety tool. You have to instruct the players about it. Yeah. It's a minimal requirement. And that has also generated a lot of discussion about how to use it and people talking about the tools they've used and their experiences. And I've just been really happy that has fostered people refining their technique on that.
Yeah. It seems to be getting a lot more popular nowadays. So I'm going to go with for my character. Is that the correct pronunciation or?
It is, but I highly recommend against doing that because when we're playing, a lot of times is just a very common verbal pause that it's hard to tell sometimes when you're like,
I kind of want that though. I mean, since we're not going to be playing, it's fine. But also, I kind of wanted that as part of the character, especially if you're playing a game and he's constantly like thinking he's the center of attention.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I think a part of it, and I think we can totally do that. Part of what holds me back is like is usually added in front of another character for like people's nicknames for each other in Chinese. So in both Mandarin and Cantonese. So a lot and there isn't a lot of other characters that are associated with that sound aside from that. So it's always like it's like I'm just immediately like, oh, and it should be followed by something. So then it's like nickname. And like usually people would use that for kids or like for like their friends that they're closer to and so on.
He looks like a kid.
Yeah, we'll have to have you go through the name list and the quick start because the samples to make sure I've got good ones in there that you think are interesting.
I got you. Yeah. But you can totally still do that since, again, we're not playing. So
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
We can push the boundaries of character creation because we don't play these characters.
So based off of some of the other names, I was seeing a lot of interesting things that are a lot more like titles, like Perfected Starfall and Jade Serpent and things like that, that I'm thinking of going with Black Petal.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Yeah, my character's pronouns are she, her.
So these are these other names. It looks like, like either titles or like nicknames, names you're known by, effectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so people can choose whether they want to have a common name, a more conventional name, or they could mix that up with like brother, Lao, or however they wanted to with the title. And then the convention are these names for people that they take on, these kind of titles and role names that they assume. And they're super colorful. So.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll switch to that because I have a feeling he would at the very least invent a name for himself. And this is like so against my like normal humbleness to play such a boisterous character.
That's great.
Okay.
Oh man, there's so many other good names there too.
Would Perfected Fist be a decent name?
Sure.
Sweet. Yeah. I'll go with Perfected Fist.
Perfected Fist. I love it.
I think I broke something in my spreadsheet cell. It's not going down to the next line when I type. And if I try and put a return, it's not working.
You need to wrap? There you go.
Thank you.
You're
welcome.
I
cheated and I pulled a picture for my character, which is in the image link area on the bottom of their character.
Okay, now I got to find someone.
Oh no!
No, if I go down that rabbit hole, I will be there forever. So I will.
That's true.
Awesome. Okay, so I have. What do I have? Oh, I need a faction now too.
And you don't have to necessarily. So what we do is the factions are a thing that you can come up with to assign names as you're doing your entanglements or as you're thinking about your backstory. So that's a kind of a loose thing. Some people will come up with it now because they want a cool name, and some people will come up with it as they're doing the entanglements.
Okay, I think I'll hold off on that then.
Yeah, it looks like the next thing to do after look and name is determine your style, associating it with one of the elements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this is the style, as Agatha said earlier, is very much a color thing, with the exception of deciding which element it's associated with. And so your weapon, if your weapon's taken away, you can still fight, and that kind of thing. But this is about what you're known for and what you can really do awesome things with.
Okay. So the style name is going to be just the name of the style, and that could be completely made up at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some examples, but you can come up with whatever you want.
All right. I think my style name is going to be Broken Mountain.
How about Smoldering Crater?
Oof.
You're really leaning into this. And I'm very into it.
Awesome. And the weapon, interesting.
And it can be barehanded. As your approach as well.
I think unarmed. Yeah. Question mark. All right. So my weapon is unarmed.
Okay, I have a question. Is there a word or a phrase for like, like a tactical thing in battle, like when you're like, oh, for sure people they're gonna pass by this route, so let's set up an attack for them. Is there
an ambush?
An ambush.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, great.
Okay. So I think once we get all of this set, we'll go over everything that we've selected.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts and guests, or even some of our character sheets. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you like the systems discussed and wish to purchase them, links to the products can be found in the show notes. Also, check the notes or the website for cool stuff to go with each character, such as dice or mixtapes. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation, so go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit One Shot Podcast.
Just keep going.
If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like Backstory.
Backstory is a cozy, thoughtful interview show featuring the most fascinating folks in role-playing. Join host Alex Roberts as she gets to know game designers, LARP writes, scholars, community organizers, and more. From emerging artists to seasoned veterans, guests open up about their creative process, what keeps them engaged, and their visions for the future of role-playing.